points champion just a few years back, Craig Ulmer in sweet pace.
And 86 right now, 345 and 86. Here we go with the Kentuckian.
Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday night, 7 p.m. You know what that means? It's Outlawed Live, and go to the intro. Welcome, everyone. Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, Outlawed Live. It kind of had a little snafu there in the intro. I went from one video to the next, and it didn't play, so then we popped up on the screen there. But all good, all good. It's post-banquet time, of course. Huge banquet again. I think we were 400-plus members and family members of members and such, so always a good time down at Margaritaville at Lake of the Ozarks. A lot of awards given out. Mike, was this your first banquet with us, or was it your
No, I attended last year. I got an invitation after doing a couple of shows. I hopped right on that. That was actually a big deal for me. That's where I started building some of my relationships, got to know a lot of people early on. And but it's one of my favorite weekends of the year. So totally successful. A lot of awesome stories. No shortage of highlights and wonderful things to recap. But yeah, is that it? Is that the 2024 season officially in the books?
It's a wrap, buddy. It's a wrap. Yeah, it's now complete. We punctuated it with the banquet. Now all eyes on 2025 from this point on. And you think it just was we just had New Year's and it was New Year's Day, because boy, my phone started blowing up Monday morning. It's like we just started a new season, and a lot of things going on. Of course, the banquet, it's not just the banquet, it's also our rules meetings, a lot of organizational type stuff going on. It's actually a pretty busy time for a lot of folks.
I noticed that on Saturday. I took a lot more hands-on approach this year than I did last year with sitting in on a lot of those meetings, and ever continuing try to learn and soak up how all this works. Yeah, there's kind of that Saturday day. That moves quick. We accomplish a lot in a short amount of time.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on Friday as well, but Saturday, yes, from one meeting to the next, to the next, to the next, and sometimes they kind of overlap. Even sometimes if they run a little bit long. But as far as rules go, I think probably some of the, just from my memory here, some of the things that stand out: the modified four-wheel drive pickups voted to go up to 6,350 pounds.
Yep.
So they're the same weight now that the PPL, the different PPL series, that is their rule, 6,350 pounds. Of course, NTPA is 6,200. Outlaws have been 6,200 forever. So some of those PPL guys that pull with both organizations, that was one of their hang-ups, I think, for the most part with the Outlaws, was that extra 150 pounds. And I honestly thought that rule was probably going to change, or at least there'd be a lot more votes for it this year with all the bouncing and things we've seen this season in the four-wheel drive class. Not to say that 150 pounds is going to cure it, but it sure couldn't hurt to hang 150 more out front.
No puller is ever going to say no thank you if you offer them more weight in any class, regardless. And that is nice with the, each association, there was just a little bit different. And of course, PPL and Outlaw are known as the Mountain Motor Associations. And now it's just kind of an open door policy, and it's going to allow for that crossover at any point, which, the more the merrier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else as super memorable.
There were some small ones. The naturally aspirated guys talked about, what tires that they're going to allow and not allow. And I think the same thing with a light limited pro stock, talked about total number of lugs on a tire. And, you could maybe run up to 52 lugs on a tire, but you couldn't run it for points. But nothing, I think, that's really going to blow away, the chat boards for the next week or so.
Yeah, let's see. Marty Samuelson checking in. I've got the comments rolling in already. Going to try to stay ahead of them here. Of course, Marty, the unofficial mayor of Ravenna, Nebraska, says, good to see you guys survived last weekend. The only singing I did was just hanging out and playing the guitar and singing in the room. And, of course, perform the national anthem. They did the Quilt of Honor ceremony on Saturday night. Speaking of that, the guy who received it,
absolutely,
PJ Minio from Manila, Iowa, well-deserved award there for PJ. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody. The High Proof Pull Party. Hi, guys. Jennifer checking in with a Miller Lite. Well, that's good. That's good, Mike. That's not my beer preference, but yeah, good to have a drink on a
Outlawed live Tuesday nights with a cold drink in hand. Hey, man, we're all about it.
Yeah, that's right. Your drink of choice. I have my drink of choice in my cup right here.
I had to turn my whatever you call my lid. Got to get the label facing out. Yeah. So here we go.
You can't even see mine because of the my background is kind of.
Yeah, you're a chameleon this evening, Ron. You can't wear black on this show if you're going to do that virtual background. You're going to be a floating head pretty soon.
I guess so. I'm going to have to. Maybe it is the black. You're supposed to have a green screen behind you, but I've never seen it this bad before. So, but yeah, I am totally cloaked in black. My cup is black, shirt's black, hat's black. High Proof Pool Party said, inside joke from last night.
Yeah, this is our bowling green friend checking in, and he of course watched Let's Go Pulling last night. Where Ron, I'm not gonna lie to you. We might have done some wheeling and dealing on Facebook Marketplace with a very, very kind lady from Louisiana. She had an apparatus for sale, and we might have called her up, and I'll be darned if she didn't just chit-chat with the panel for the better part of an hour, telling us about her favorite beer and cigarettes and many a story that, you might just have to go back and watch.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I'm not going to ask a whole lot of questions about it. It sounds.
That's probably best.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It says ask Mike about Jennifer. So I think we got it now. So anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else meaningful or anything that worth mentioning about rules. I know the mod 4-wheel drive was a thing. The pro stock tractors was a thing. Of course. The limited mini modifieds, is still a go. So we had a nice constructive meeting there on Friday with the guys. And it looks like we're going to have a good core group starting out, and a lot of current Outlaw members that are interested in building one of these limited mini rods. So, Mike, that'd be a good one for you to get into. Sell that fishing boat, buddy. Build you a limited mini rod.
Never say never, man. Never say never. You know what? It's ever since I've gotten into the pulling world, my confidence has just, gained so much. I only ever wanted to announce, but then I get to meeting these drivers and I talk to the drivers, and I've started to say, well, maybe I just could. Maybe I could put on a fire suit and just give one a wheel one of these days. But
just maybe?
I don't know. Let's just stick to the microphone for now, Ron Stone. There he is. Now we can see
look
you.
At that. That's a little better, isn't it? Yeah. We're an official Outlaw hat there. Dawson Addington, any changes in the light modified class? I don't think there were anything of note, Dawson? I'll go over those before next week's show and make sure. But I'm going to be talking to you guys here very soon, Dawson. We're working together on an event, possibly an event in Oklahoma in 2025. So
would love to see the Outlaws back in Oklahoma. It'd be kind of a back to the roots pull. Speaking of the light mods, the 7,400 pound mods did vote, I heard, to allow you can run 3 871 blown Fords, which
right.
I didn't necessarily see a huge inkling of difference. A wedge motor to me is kind of a wedge motor is a wedge motor, and we kind of universally call them all Chevys. But evidently there was enough of a difference that I wasn't aware of. So Ford guys, we'll put 3 on a chassis out there.
It all comes down to heads. What kind of heads you're running, Mike? Heads, that's where you're going to get all your air in and out of your motor is in the heads, the combustion chambers, and everything. The technology's come so far. Every once in a while, you'll see a rule where it says no Pontiac, Big Chief heads, things like that.
Sure.
In certain combinations. And so they're allowing, and I think they're doing this not only to try to invite some of the Ford guys to build these combinations, but there's some guys that have this combination that would like to come pull with us already.
Definitely.
Out of Ohio. So we may see those guys. Oddly enough, I used to watch these guys when I was a kid back in Ohio. They used to come to the little track where I was at. So yeah, that's as far as 7,400 pounds, the modifieds, we're talking about that class, but no major changes in there. Case Conover watching from Lytle, Texas, as usual on Tuesday night. Thanks so much, Case, as well as all of our usual viewers. Kevin Davis, I can't get away from this guy. I was just talking to him on the phone 15, 20 minutes ago. And no, it's Kevin Davis. They may be adding a class, so I won't say what class yet, but that's what he called me about a little while ago. And Dawson Addington, yes, we're working on pulling. Hope to make it happen. As do we. Zook Fukerberg, you are correct. Turbochargers were outlawed for the Griffin power plants only for 2025. So you should have made it to the meeting.
Only if it's painted black. If you painted a different color, it's fine.
Should have come to the meeting. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, no turbos for the or you have to pull 2 spark plug wires, I think was the rule if you run 2 turbos on the Griffin. So yeah, if anything comes to me that I think makes any big differences, I can't think of anything.
That's the gist of it. The big takeaway to me was, kind of no news is good news, housekeeping items and whatnot like that. But nothing that I heard where my jaw kind of hit the floor and said, whoa, that's a big one. So, which is good.
They're going to tighten some things up, in that light super ag class. Make sure these tractors are, there's so much lightning that goes on. They lighten these things up and get inside the transmission cases and take a lot of that cast iron out. And we need to make sure that the frames can handle that load. They're taking off, they're taking a lot of that structural integrity out. And the frames, we need to start paying a lot more attention to these frames, these chassis, to make sure they can handle the load. Because, they're a light package already, and a lot of these guys take some wild rides and stress these things out. So we just want to protect our pullers and our crowds and our crew members as well. Zook Fukerberg, he's laughing because he has to run with a 10-cylinder next year, of course. Ben Beller watching from Howard, Kansas. Thanks for watching, Ben. So tonight we're going to bring on a pulling legend, an announcer from Nenagh, Oklahoma. He's announced all over this planet. Anybody that has ever watched Outlaw Pulling at any time in the past, I'm talking just from a couple years back to all the way back to the beginning of the Outlaws, knows who this guy is. He has one of the most recognizable voices in pulling.
No doubt about it.
Without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Dave Bennett from Nenagh, Oklahoma.
Hello,
Dave, how you doing, buddy?
Hey.
How's it going?
Oh, well done, Ron Stone.
Oh, wow. It completely took me out of the picture there.
Well, that there for a second, it really looked good. But
Dave, how's it going tonight?
Nanticaw is still where Nanticaw is supposed to be, so it's all okay.
All right. Yeah, it hasn't blown away yet, so we're all good. All good.
Hadn't blown away. I was listening to you guys talk. I found it interesting. Y'all was talking about the limited mini rods there just a moment ago. And I asked I heard rumors about that. And when I got, into Saturday night and I talked, and then on the way home, asked them, nobody knew nothing about it. Y'all kept it a secret. Whatever you done on that Friday, you kept it a secret. That could be a game changer for the Outlaws, adding interest, crowd wise. We are in the entertainment business, and so many of these crowds have seen so much of the big Outlaws. They're ready for a little something different. So that could be a good deal.
Yeah, that's that, and it's like I tell everybody, I was never a huge fan of the mini rod class. Of course, I watch any class that's pulling the sled, but last year at Washington, Missouri, the ITPA brought these limited mini rods in. There were 380 cubic inch, 671, 871 superchargers, and these guys put on a show. And I took notice, so I had to chat with them a little bit. And they definitely are interested in pulling with the Outlaws. And then once the secret got out, a lot of the current Outlaws that are already pulling in different classes were interested as well. So we had names like Craig Ulmer in the room, and we had Blake Ott and the Ott family in there. A lot of Outlaw pullers interested in adding a mini rod to their.
It was. I'm going to guess. What was it? 4, 5. I was still saying it had to be 5 years ago, if not 6 years ago. We had the California mini rods down in White Rat, and that stirred up a tremendous amount. I mean, you really couldn't advertise what was coming. We just, they could only advertise there was something big coming or a change coming or whatever. And those mini rods kind of lit that crowd on fire. And you look at their attendance from that point forward, because it was a big surprise. Then we brought in the light supers the next year. We showed them something different. And so those mini rods started it off down there. And I think you'll be surprised how many frames are still sitting around Missouri. And I know of a couple down in Texas that might just jump in this thing.
Yeah, I'm hearing that as well, that there's several chassis just kind of sitting, lying in wait all over the Midwest, Dave, for the mini rods to make a return. And so, hopefully this will spur some interest in going with this limited mini rod class with the superchargers. And I just want folks to know, don't think this when you say limited mini rod. Yeah, they're not making 3,000 horse, but these small blocks are pumping out 1,500 horsepower. And
a block with an 871 can scream pretty hard.
Yeah, and like I said, they put on a show. And I was talking to Donnie Jasper, and he said what really woke those things up was when the new tires came out, the Mayhills. And a few years back, you remember at Louisville, it was a big deal in two-wheel drive class.
Oh yeah. I started going to ask you, can either one of you two remember or know of a single class that tires didn't wake that class up?
Not in the past couple of years, especially. It seems like, I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago that talked about how it seems like pulling always has this rotation where it always goes weight, horsepower, tires, weight, horsepower, tires. And over the past couple of years between the Metos and the Mayhills, that's the name of the game right now. Cameron Neves kind of attributes his whole points championship this season. Once he put those hole shots on, the tires bring a class forward in a hurry.
Yeah, like Ron was saying down in Louisville, I was down there when that whole deal took place. They was worried about the footprint. And they was measuring, and they had a particular tractor in there. And I mean, the big guns was there measuring, looking, checking. And that particular tractor and that particular tire and the measurements they took right then set the tone for the industry.
Yeah, they went 1, 2, 3 at Louisville that year and set the two-wheel drive world on fire. Every two-wheel drive team in the country was trying to get their hands on those tires. It was a mad dash to see who could get them next. And yeah, they sold a lot of those tires. But he said that those tires literally woke those little limited minis up. He said where they used to go straight A to B right down the track, they became a handful because they got a hold of the track and bit so hard. Yeah. And that's what I noticed at Washington, Missouri, was there was some wild rides in there. They were turning 8,000-9,000 RPM, and they had to do some driving, and it was fun to watch. So I'm excited about getting that class going. We have a lot of folks tune in, Dave, to the show and comment, and I want to try to keep up with them. Mike Quayle out of Minnesota watching tonight. Thanks for watching. William Wilkinson says Dave Bennett has always been the golden boy.
I see that. Yeah. You got a little French carry on in there.
Benoit. And then Zook Fukerberg, we go from French to German here. German doppelganger of Doug Both. Says, good evening, Dave Bennett. Good to see you at Lufkin, Texas this year. Cole Lundahl, watching from Wakefield, Nebraska. Russ Dostal. Dave, he wants to know, what was your all-time favorite announcing memory announcing with the Outlaws?
Good question.
With the Outlaws. Now that makes glad we narrowed it down a little bit.
Should be a little easier, huh?
All-time favorite would probably be Carroll, Nebraska, and I believe it was the owners, if I remember correctly, set the longest pull on record in any time. I mean, Carroll, Nebraska was a hoot anyhow. They had that crowd come to party. They didn't care how long the party lasted. And that show was back in the Western Sweep days. But anyhow, he lifted the pan up and took off, had a hole shot and was scooting. And then the track separated and we got a slice of track underneath the skid pan. And he almost loaded that modified up in Dennis Goodwin's hauler.
Oh boy.
And it was a legal pull, but that was one of the times that I remember the most. That just looking back on Outlaw right quick. I mean, there's so many. You don't work 21 years with Outlaws and can pull up the top of the top. But that one just sprung into mind when you asked it right there.
It's I have to say, of course this is fresh in my memory, but this year probably one of the wildest pulls since I've been with the Outlaws for 5 years would have been Spencer, Iowa, the light super stock ag class.
Yeah.
With the Chuck Schluter and then Jeremy Paulson.
Chuck's ride is a once a decade, once every 15 years ride. And then you saw something that topped it 4 tractors later. Same show, same class, so to have the double excitement the way that you did, Ron. And I still stand by it's one of the most professional things I've ever heard, where I'd have been ducking for cover and hiding underneath the table. You still had the presence of mind to get the distance out and make sure the driver was okay. And in the midst of everything, Ron Stone's right there announcing the distance. We're all good to go, keeping records of everything.
Got to keep the crowd calm. And of course,
sure.
First concern is the driver. You want to make sure the driver is okay. Dalton Smith giving you a shout out.
One of the most memorable times was in Hoffman's hometown.
Dunlap.
Yeah,
Dunlap, Iowa.
That was where I witnessed my first block split. And I wasn't standing. You know how I walk the track or used to walk the track, and right there, I was really close to that block splitting right there.
Yeah, did it scare you a little bit? Did it startle you?
It got my attention. Got my attention, and the camera boys, the big screen. We had quite a mess to clean up, and you know what, you go two guys know full well what it's like. You're sitting there trying to figure out how to entertain the crowd or what to do or this and that. And they're cleaning this mess up, and they're replaying the video on the big screen, and they run in slow motion. And when they run in slow motion, I just barely picked up on something going across the screen, and I had them. One day I'll tell, okay. Anyhow, and then I figured out what it was, And then I brought that video up many a time in my shows. You could see the camshaft pirouetting through the air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they should have that video. That is one awesome shot. And if you slow it down and you show that to a crowd and explain how that motor blew up, and if that's the camshaft out of that block, anybody that knows mechanics, that gets their attention in a hurry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's usually where they split, right there, you know, along the camshaft too, when they do let go like that. So yeah, that makes sense. Zuck Fukerberg says he figured it was when you drove a pro stock.
Well, I wasn't announcing when I drove the pro stock, Dave. I thought we was talking about the announcing.
He doesn't pay attention, Dave. So you got to.
Yeah, getting to drive the pro, I'd always bragged I'd driven everything in the sport of pulling. You know, twin engines, the Allisons, all that stuff, the pickups from back when Holland and Moreno was in there, drove them, the two-wheel drive, drove all that. But I'd never driven Big Smoke. And I did get to drive Big Smoke down in White Rock and got second place. I didn't make a fool out of it.
Well, that's good. I drove a light limited pro a few years ago on the last hook of the season.
That was in Spencer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were there. That's right.
I covered for you while you do it, and I'm pretty sure you cost that old boy a spot in the
What?
But he got it this year. He got it this year.
It's getting rough here. We're losing you, Dave. What's? No, I remember you critiqued my run. You critiqued me a little bit on that. I was going to mention that I think I cost him a little bit of money there in the points. So he went from second to third. I think he would have done a little bit better than me.
There's certain things that certain people don't forget, you
know. Russ Dostal says he thought the memorable experience would have been last year, 2023 at Rock Valley on
that. Okay, now the question was a memorable moment. That was one memorable night, because I always said it'd be a cold day in hell when I come back to announce, and that dadgum sure proved that in Rock Valley.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
You're gonna have to be careful what promises you're making with the pulling gods here.
Who would have thought it would be coat weather in Rock Valley, Iowa, you know, early July. Yeah, it was freezing, but
it was frosty, and I didn't have enough clothes with me.
So speaking of memorable experiences, let's we're going to go back a little ways here, Dave. What's going on in this picture here?
I was sitting on my mod. I just loaded it. You can see the ramp up behind me. That's my modified, and I just put it on the trailer.
What year would this have been here?
That would have been the carbureted rig. That would have been 76.
Now, what year is that? An old Case tractor?
No, Massey. I used a Massey Harris 101 Junior.
Gotcha.
And what kind of power plant did it have in it?
Chevrolet.
Big block Chevy, right?
Now I'm gonna show you two something. This actually, it dated itself. This is actually in 77. Because if you take a look at that tire there on the left, that is Dave Bennett's way of sharpening a tire. You know, they were selling those grinding discs back then, and you could get real dirty and you could trim the tires off. But a poor boy can take a box blade knife and cut down on one, and then in the front of it, and you can make two lips.
So you did those with a box blade?
I done that with a box knife.
Oh, geez.
Did your arm feel like it was going to fall off when you were done?
Just excited to be doing things back then. It didn't make no difference, but that was a set of 23-1 field and road tires, and they was wore hard, and trying to figure out how to get grip on them. And I basically double cut down, then cut in to where I'd have two facings. But that's what that little groove is in that lug right there.
So this is interesting for a lot of people out there that have seen you announce for years. A lot of folks didn't realize that you actually did pull, Dave. How many years did you actually drive a tractor and compete?
76 to 1980.
So
I
you
didn't
gave
pull
it
it
up?
a real long time because it didn't take too long to figure out it paid more money to hold a microphone than it did a 1/2-inch wrench.
There's a lot of truth to that.
Ron, you remember right before he came on, I was talking about I was starting to get the itch. You know, maybe I'm going to put on a fire suit. Dave just talked me out of it. I'm just going to keep holding the microphone.
Yeah, I used a lot of the Massey Harris. In fact, the seat I'm sitting in is the original old metal bucket seat that you sat in when you farmed with it.
Yep.
That fuel tank right there in front, you can see the two hoses going in either corner of it. And in those days, we didn't run dry blocks. I mean, you thought you had to keep the motor cool.
Right.
And so I carried water in that fuel tank and a transfer pump, and I'd warm the block up. And then just right when I'd get to the track, I'd turn the transfer pump on to circulate water to keep the block from getting so hot it's melting down. And my fuel tank was an aluminum fuel tank up front, just like they use today. But that was water to cool the cast iron block with in that tank.
I'll be darned. Let me pull up another one here. Let's see. Well, I thought I had a couple more old ones on. Here's a good one here. Let me pull this one up there.
I was back in television days.
This was the Masters Entertainment, right?
Yes, that was it. That was Masters over in Tennessee, and that was the sound room. They already had the video already cut and trimmed and timed and spot for commercials and everything. And me and Lloyd would sit there and watch that computer screen and then make the voice go with it. And you had a timer going across in milliseconds. The producer was all sat on the other side of the wall in a lounge chair, just like he was watching television. And if he didn't like what was said, or if we went too long on a shot or something like that, had to back up and redo it all over again.
So Dave, when, there's a lot of things that inspired me to get into announcing. And then once I kind of got the call, there was a lot of research I did and went back. And a lot of the videos that I really, really enjoyed came from Wisner, Nebraska around 2014, 15, might even be a little bit older than that. And I'm fairly certain that it's exactly what you're talking about here. Is a lot of your work where you had gone back and kind of read over and announced to the television crowd. Is that approximately, the same area of what we're looking at right here? Is that the process you're describing?
It is. And, you tried to make it sound like you was there live.
Sure.
But at the same token, add a little spice to it and such as that. And I had done a little bit of television back before the Outlaws, when I was working with United Sports. I'd done a little bit of, not television, but that was in the day of the VHS tapes, and they were selling tapes, and I'd done voiceover on tapes and stuff like that. So I was kind of accustomed to looking at the screen and making the story fit the picture. And what we done at Masters, I'd always have them play through the whole show with no sound and taking notes. And Woods would do. He was the guy that really didn't know the sport, and that's the way we portrayed it on the television. That he would ask a question. I would tell him a question to ask when we get to this particular shot. So you got people watching that didn't know. Come here from Sikkim about the sport. So you tried to bring out some of that stuff by him asking the question.
Right. How about this one here?
Well, I know it's a long time ago because my hair was as black as my hat. And that is, I ought to know where that's at. I know who it is. That was Giddy Up Go, Mr. Doug. But that would have been in the early 80s, mid 80s.
Any idea where that's at there? I can see
I'm trying to figure out. I can't.
It looks indoor. I feel like this is an indoor pull.
and I'm holding a plaque that I'm going to present to him. But if it was an indoor, those would be bleachers right there.
You would think, yeah. You would think.
But if it was outdoor, it almost looks like it's trees. But I ain't.
Yeah, no idea where that's at, Dave. But
I understand. I'm trying to blow the picture up a little bit, and I can't get it done. But them are like picture frames. See, there's squares back there.
looks almost like windows, almost.
That's what I thought. I felt like with the lighting being as bright as it was, and that dirt being real light, it looks like the dirt was hauled in. And I thought those were windows back there. So
there ain't no way. Ain't no way I can tell you, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's been a couple years, I think.
Yeah, you show me a picture of him, and that brings up more memories and stories than we got time to talk about. Rock Valley, Iowa.
Yep.
Now this one is pretty recent, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been the cold year.
This was cold. This was 2023 then.
Yeah. That is. I don't have a clue about the lady over my left shoulder.
Yeah.
No.
Don't have a clue about that, but that was the boys down to Ryan and down on the track, took a couple of pictures up in the now.
Oh, Ryan Rusink. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his picture. He's got the watermark right there.
Yep.
Now this looks like a crew right here that could get in some trouble if you ask me.
That was Lufkin. That was a very enjoyable trip.
that was this year. That was just last month.
Yeah. That was my first trip since the accident. That was my first trip, and getting to visit with some good friends and kind of breaking the ice before the banquet. The banquet was my first large crowd since the accident. I've kind of been pulling back on the reins, but going down there, sitting there visiting Ray, he makes me look awful old. I don't know. I got to change looks here.
Well, he's got a little gray there, I think, in his facial hair there, Dave.
Yeah.
Now, this picture here, Dave, I couldn't help but notice. I guess I should have zoomed in too. This looks like Missouri State Fair here to me.
It is.
But I should have zoomed in there. What's on the table? To the right of the screen, there's a stack of cookies right there, and that was something that I couldn't help but notice when I was transitioning in, and we were announcing together that there was never a shortage of people bringing you snacks wherever we went.
So the cookie lady always brought me cookies, and she had particular cookies for me. Peanut butter cookies. Mrs. Roberts made sure I had my peanut butter cookies.
Yep. That would have been my guess. Boy, Ron, you won't eat a better cookie in the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Association. I will say that.
Oh, she remembers everybody's favorites too.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, she does. Yeah. That's a memorable moment right there.
This would have been just a couple years ago.
That would have been in 2 years ago, when they just announced me in the Hall of Fame at Louisville. I had no idea it was coming. I did not know that was coming, not whatsoever. I was sitting there. I was actually brought in to be the backup announcer because I had already kind of retired.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to come in as the backup announcer. And so I'm sitting there at the table, kind of keeping my notes ready. Actually, I thought I was going to have to go in because Leslie's little boy got hurt at school. She had to leave. And Mike Witt come by and told me that I'm liable to have to go in. Anyhow, I'm just sitting up there doing my thing, keeping my cards in order. And this is on Saturday night during the finals, so you got to get rid of a lot of cards and get the rest of them in order. And they started that Hall of Fame deal, and I had no idea. And then they went into that, and that was quite a shock and quite a memorable deal right there. Hall of Fame at Louisville.
And speaking of Hall of Fame.
Yep. First one was Outlaws.
Yep. Got Doug Roberts over there to your far right, and then Bill Oberste.
Bill Oberste. You seen him down in Lufkin. He come all the way down to Lufkin with Brackett.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Good guy, really good guy.
But being humble, not being humble, whatever you want to say, there's so many people that belongs in the Outlaw Hall of Fame. Just the two that we put in there this year, so deserving of it.
Yes.
The ones you put in last year. So.
Yeah, Clem Schluter and, of course, George Neves inducted in the Outlaw Hall of Fame at the banquet over the weekend.
Well deserved, because they helped build. Yeah, there we are.
Now, this looks like an actual, that's somebody's television. Somebody was watching you on TV and snapped that pic there. So what, we caption this right here. What are you saying? What's going on here, Dave?
Well, I'm sure I was explaining something, but I don't know what it would be. I could make up a story and you couldn't tell me I was wrong, but
no way. Dave Bennett tell a story?
Yep. Known as a story writer, opening up a show. Right there, we was opening up a show. That would have been White Rye, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep, we had the tent right out in front of the. Yeah, that would have been
2023. I kind of remember live streaming this. This might have been the year before last, I want to say.
I think it might have been this year. I think it might have been
this year. Okay.
We did put that tent up this year. I don't think we did that last year. I don't think.
Now you got crowded in last year with seats around you, and you kind of roped them off this year.
Yeah. So, then this one here is just a few days old.
Just a few days old, yeah.
From our banquet there. So
that was a good time.
Yep. What was your thoughts on the banquet there, Dave? It seems like we just keep growing and growing, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It does keep growing, and so many things. The highlight was Kyle's speech, and a lot of people listened to his speech and such as that. But he took a little ribbon to that. He's going to have to shorten it up 5 minutes next year.
Yeah, it was a long one, but I don't know if it was so much a speech as it was how hot it was in that suit jacket I was wearing, but it was warm in there during the speech. But,
now the banquet was, you got so many more classes now than when I was there. So many more classes and stepping stones for people to take, and it rolled right on through. You started earlier, and I wasn't aware you were starting as early, which I was ready, but I didn't know. But with all the presentations you got and everything going on, you needed to start earlier. So it was a very well run, very well set up banquet.
It's a production. I mean, we have meetings about the banquet, what goes here, what goes there, and how it's going to be done. And of course you have to allot for this much time and trying to cut here and cut there. So it's not, 5-6 hours long.
There's two things back in my day. I never went to the podium without a list of who won what.
Right.
Like somebody forgot their phone.
Oh.
Hello.
I usually had it in my pocket, and I get up there, and it's like, oopsie.
And then the other thing, I had Lori Bauer sitting right out straight in front of me, and when she started tapping her watch, you better shift gears.
That's awesome.
Now, you've been friends with Lori and Kevin for how long?
Oh, shoot. That would go back into 2000. When I started with the Outlaws, Vaughn was still kind of running the sled. And the very first time I met Kevin, actually wasn't at an Outlaw show. It was in Amsterdam with a SRO show.
Okay.
And that is when, if I hadn't tried to think of the name, I'd think of it. Anyhow, sled didn't work right. Anyhow, it got into a bad situation. We scattered brakes on that sled. Everybody was safe, didn't hurt nobody. But I seen Kevin, as soon as the dust settled, I seen him running out the back door, and I didn't know what he was running for because that sled was broke. And it wasn't 2 minutes later, he come driving the backup sled through the door.
Oh,
and I remembered Kevin.
He was saving the day there. Josh Rail says, Dave announced my first pull with Outlaws at Whitewright in 2004. I backed up to the sled. They hooked the chain, motioned for me to tighten the chain. I never took it out of reverse and backed straight into the sled. So
for miles and miles around, you could hear him curse as he threw it right into reverse.
Oh, that's too good. Too good.
Going back a little bit here, going to catch up on the comments. Bodie Yachts said the Master Entertainment tractor productions of the day were some of the best tractor pulling videos ever produced, in his opinion.
We had fun doing it. If you're having fun, it turns out good.
Here's the question on everybody's mind. I know 2024 has been a rough year, but inquiring minds want to know here.
Yeah, and it don't surprise me as to who that's coming from either. I have been asked, this is an official presidential announcement, okay? I have been asked to come back, and I have most definitely turned it down. I feel, some will say, I say I'm over the hill. Some say, no, I'm not over the hill. There's so much more going on now. You guys got tons of advertisements. You barely have time to tell who the puller is in between your advertisements. And sponsors are well needed. There ain't no two ways about it. My deal was, I never had that many sponsors, so I had to fill time, and I told stories about everybody and such as that. Plus, I interacted with the crowd, and I'd make fun at picking people in the crowd, and you learn who you can have fun with. You learn by reading your eyes who you can and can't. But I received, or Kurt Van Beek, a promoter, and I received a letter, 3 different letters, 3 different times, 3 different letters in the last 2 years, reprimanded me how I offended somebody in the crowd. And in this day and time, my style of announcing would not be accepted for 2 or 3 things. The sponsors would get mad because I'd mention a sponsor, but I wouldn't give them the 3 minutes. And then I'd be picking at some guy in the crowd and I'd offend them. So I'm on top of the ladder, you know, in the Hall of Fame in Louisville, the Hall of Fame with the Outlaws. There's not another rung on this ladder. The sport of pulling knows me nothing. This 74-year-old man don't need to come back and make a fool out of himself.
Well, I don't think that would be the case.
You gotta say that a fool is the last thing that anyone would think that you would be. But all we can say is thank you, Dave. You know, you've been an inspiration and a mentor to all of us, and we just learn from listening to you.
Well, you learned listening to me. You started pretty low, but anyhow, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's. I mean, your experience in announcing, I mean, goes back to what year? Because you know a lot of people probably don't realize that you've done mud racing and monster trucks and traveled the globe with tours in different
2
countries.
trips to Australia, I say every state in the continental United States, but there's a small little pocket down in the Virginias and the Carolinas, one of the Carolinas, that I've never done because that's Army Armstrong territory, and I never did.
Oh, sure.
Get asked to go down there because Army controlled that part. But I've done every state in the Union, done major stadiums. I mean, the first show I ever done with United Sports was in the Texas Stadium, Dallas Cowboys Texas Stadium. So
that was USA.
Yep, back in USA days. And the only reason I got down there, and Mike, you're interested in this story. The only reason I got asked to go to Dallas with USA wasn't because who I was or anything like that. Years before that, the MTPA had a rule that if you were sanctioned with an MTPA event, you had to use an MTPA sanctioned announcer. Well, I went to work to get my name on that approved list, knowing that there wasn't going to be no shows out here in Oklahoma. I just wanted my name on that list.
Sure.
And I got a board member to come to Oklahoma. You had to be listened to by a board member. So I had to provide for a board member to come to Oklahoma. Anyhow, I got on that list. And the only reason USA called me up is I was the closest approved announcer on that list for them to have to hire. And Ron, I try to pull up a name, I can't do it. Anyhow, the owner of USA met me in the production room and told me point blank, the only reason I was there because he was forced to hire me. He would do the show. I just do the pulling. Fair enough. And then about halfway, I knew all the pullers. Howman was down there. Sled was from Oklahoma. I knew everybody. I popped off one of my mother-in-law jokes from back in those days.
Is that where it started?
Huh?
Is that where it started?
It started way back before then when I really had to kill time. When you pulled the sled back with a tractor, you had to have plenty of kill time. But the owner of USA, who was working with me, put his microphone on the table and he says, "You think you're pretty dadgum good, don't you?" And I said, "No, sir, I just know what I know." He said, "Just carry the whole show." Well, we're doing monster trucks, motocross, transforming robots, mud racing, and tractor pulling all at the same time. I didn't know none of them other guys, none whatsoever. But I knew enough mechanics. That's what I was telling Mike the other night. If you learn the mechanics, you can go a long ways.
Yeah.
I just picked up the microphone and went to going. He slid back up to the counter about 30 minutes later, finished the show. Next week, they called me and asked me to go to Indianapolis, and they just took off from there.
Wow.
And that was what year?
That would have been 82, 83, something like that. But it's just because I wanted to be on an announcer's list, and I had to work to get on an approved announcer's list.
Yeah. I went to an event at Arrowhead Stadium back around that time, 82, maybe 83. They had mud run and tractor pull and everything else.
We had side-by-side drag races and combine demolition derbies. I done every show in Arrowhead Stadium. That's the hometown of USA.
You were probably announcing that show.
If it was inside Arrowhead, it was me.
Yeah. Rich Clark says he liked when the Mouth of the South did the down on the track interviews. You get the inside scoop on the run. That was kind of your thing too, was being trackside all the time.
Being trackside, being right there. I sitting in an announcer stand. I had to do it at times, but I wasn't at ease right there. I was more comfortable walking around. But you'd pick up on little bit things. You'd see a little something drop off a tractor.
Yep.
You'd see little things, and you could point them out and just try to inform the crowd a little bit more.
I've done a few trackside, but every once in a while you get hit with some clods of dirt too, depending on what class.
Well, that's where that big hat comes in. You learn how to kill it.
I was operating the starting line camera in Bloomfield, Iowa, and Doug Ruth with the Ruthless Binder decided to rain some oil on me. So you'll get all sorts of things when you get right up there in the mix of stuff.
Yeah. That's kind of like when that super stock split the block there in Dunlop. That will get your attention.
Yeah.
And Jamie, I'm sorry I didn't hang around for your 16th. I have announced a lot of first-time pullers. In fact, another one of my memorable moments, you want to talk about moments, was down in Taylor, Texas. And Craig come down there with Ty. And it was just them two, father and son weekend off, all the way down in Taylor, Texas. And Ty was not big enough hardly to take that ranch and start those motors, but he was giving it all it was worth. And now, and then since then, I've announced his first track pass down the track, and now he's got a kid that's as old as he was back when I was down in Taylor, Texas. It's just seeing the growth in these families and everything.
Have you ever seen so many, a large group of young pullers with the Outlaws before?
Not really.
Young guns.
You go back in my era, everybody was in their prime, so they wasn't letting the kid on the tractor at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But the Young Guns has helped out tremendously, letting them have a little bit of say, letting them have a little bit of input, making them feel like and they do count. Their thoughts do count. They might not get a rule pass, but their thoughts count, and that's how they learn.
We've
all the way from the track, all the way to the boardroom.
Some pretty tough customers and drivers in that Young Guns group that we've got.
Oh yeah,
no kidding.
Well, there's a familiar face there.
There's Lori J.
David Hunt. I'm not sure what he's talking about there. Might have been talking about the SRO and USA days.
Yeah, me and David Hunt goes back in before he ever thought about pulling. He held speed records through a lot of pits through the South, traveled with USA.
There's William Wilkinson wants to know how Robert Zychek got his nickname.
Can't answer that question.
I wondered if that was one of those. Mother-in-law's Garage. That was a website you had that.
That was a mail-out paper and a website. Hello, Tragedy. That's a sweet little girl right there. I got to suck up to her. She's kinfolk.
Yeah. Now, when you had that,
Mother-in-law's Garage was something that I connected monster trucks, mud racing, everything together, from haulers to blower parts, and the internet basically killed me. I mean, I had a website and was putting it on there, but it didn't take off as good as the paper did. But the internet pretty well killed it, and the Mother-in-law's Garage was pretty popular there for a while.
Yeah, the website, I was on it quite a bit there in the early 2000s when I was building a pulling truck, always looking for a deal on parts. I used to get on there quite a bit looking for stuff. So
yeah, I still think you owe me money for that too.
Oh, is that what? Did I have a subscription? I thought I had the free account that you had there.
Now, the subscriptions for the paper, and then what you was wanting to buy, you'd ask me, and I'd give it to you, but you didn't give me no commission. John Hunt, first time down the track in Taylor, Texas. That goes so many.
Yeah, that's the truth there. That's the truth.
Yeah, that'd be right. That'd be right.
And we got a lot of people watching tonight. Hard to believe it's already been an hour here. But geez.
When you get three announcers together, you better have an extended show.
That's what I was thinking. When I knew the three of us were going to be on this, I kind of told the family downstairs, I said, don't plan anything for the next little bit. There might be some chit-chatting this evening.
The things that's taken place, the memories, the places we've been, the people we've met. I mean, you just take like at Wisner, the VFW hall.
Yep. Fish fry.
They would look for you. They'd looking for you. They knew every one of them. Mm-hmm. So many people, so many stories, so many things.
Yeah, I heard they're actually moving that to Wednesday night now for 2025, where it's always been traditionally on Thursday night. It's just always been tradition. The pullers go there Thursday, go to the fish fry at the VFW, go pulling Friday, Saturday. Now Wisner has moved to Thursday, Friday, Saturday. A lot of the pullers still went to the fish fry, but had to go earlier. Right. So I've been told, Dave Novak told me the VFW is moving that to Wednesday night to keep that tradition going. And the pullers will just go straight from the Iowa State Fair over to Wisner, go to the fish fry, and be like it used to.
You pull in the afternoon at the Iowa State Fair on Wednesday, don't you?
Yeah, and the pullers, we start at noon, and then everybody pulls out, and you have to leave the pit area anyway. So they just head out and go to Wisner on Wednesday. So Ben Beller wants to know if you're going to Louisville in February.
As of right now, as we're talking, I'm not planning on going. It'd be good to go, but I've still got a lot of healing to do to be able to take a ride that far and everything. And since I don't get paid to go, that's a pretty expensive trip, as you guys well know.
Oh, yeah.
The motel rooms is astounding in that week.
Yeah. You know, that's one reason I wanted you to come on tonight, Dave, was, you know, somebody, before they realized you were at the banquet, somebody at the banquet was asking me how you were doing. And of course, for those that don't know, I think most people do, you were in a tragic motorcycle accident back in early in the summer. And, the injuries that you sustained, I pretty sure you should be in a little worse shape than you are right now. So you're kind of ahead of schedule. But I've had a lot of people ask me how you're doing. And I thought, well, heck, let's just bring him on the show.
I understand.
People could see how you're doing. So how are you, Dave?
17 broken bones are healed up. I can't walk right, and I can't get out of a chair right, and I can't go out in the shop and work. But where I'm at right now is where they told me I'd be Christmas Day. That's how far ahead of the schedule I am. And not doing nothing any special, not doing that, just doing my thing, trying to exercise and go. But yeah, the day of the wreck, I remember nothing. I have no recall. I don't know what happened. It's just a blank. I just know I woke up and I was in Arkansas and I woke up in Oklahoma City. So, but I've been very well blessed. So blessed that I've got an envelope back here behind me. I could show you a stack of sympathy and get well cards a foot deep from all the pullers and friends and such as that.
Yeah.
So, and not only just the Outlaws, but I mean, you go from one end of this country to the other, just like a lot of these people that's coming on here and asking questions.
Yeah.
They're from different parts of the world. So I thank you for asking. I'm doing very well. Just doing better than the doctor said I'm supposed to be doing, but that shows what doctors know.
That's the iron will of a man from Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. Growing up in a hayfield didn't hurt me none. That make you a little tougher.
Yeah. So what's your take on pulling, Dave, from your perspective, where you've seen it in the heyday in the 80s when it was the thing to where it is now? I mean, where do you see pulling going from this day forward?
Well, I want to say something probably that upset a few people, but I've always been an advocate of putting some limitations on this stuff. If you don't limit a few things, it's going to get so out of hand, you're only going to have 2 or 3 people in each class that's going to control it.
Sure.
I mean, I can go back when the Banner brothers, if they ever got beat twice, they just hang another motor on there. Just as simple as that.
Yep.
Turbos is the thing that is, I couldn't spell the word turbo until I started with Outlaws, and I've learned more about turbos than I care to know. You know, and y'all had some pretty good discussions at your rules meeting this year, wanting different brands or wanting this and that and the other. So where I'm going with this, if the sport don't slow down some of these classes, they're going to go broke. And if the sport don't slow down some of these classes, you ain't going to be able to tell the difference. I mean, somebody's going to see the sled go down the track with 8 weights in it. You're going to change classes and it's still going to have 8 weights in it, and the tractor looks the same.
Yeah.
So your horsepower is getting way too close together. So there's some time's got to be spent on some limitations. I heard you say that they didn't let Griffin have his 2 turbos.
No, they did. I was joking.
Oh, okay.
Because he already had them on there at Lufkin.
Okay. I figured he did ask for 2 turbos. That would have been self-correcting right there anyhow. But with that being the case, everybody's got to take a look at the sport, not for their class, not for their tractor, but consider the person sitting in the stands that don't have a clue.
Yeah.
That this tractor don't have a tractor rear end in it. It's got a planetary in it, but it's still got John Deere sheet metal on it.
Right.
And so I love the deal with the talk process. It ain't a done deal, and I ain't trying to start nothing, but the mini rod deal, showing people something new. And like you go to scheduling classes in this town, what's been there forever, what needs to be moved around to show the crowd something new.
Yeah.
So the sport itself is out there, but it's got a doomsday with a dollar bill tied to it if people don't get a hold of it.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. And when it comes to, and of course that's the whole reason for having a box turbocharger, is so everybody's not seeking the latest and greatest and most exotic turbocharger, which everybody knows the more exotic it is and the more unique it is, the more expensive it is to replace, and the greater chance it's going to blow up on you. So the box turbos, we want the box turbos, usually make them a good, durable turbo that's going to last, the season, and it's not costing your pullers a lot of money. They're not putting 2 and 3 turbos on it in a season, where, right now we're kind of the 4-1 class is kind of, there's some pretty exotic turbos in there. And, a few of the pullers, end up having, I think a couple of them did 3 turbos back in the summer, and they get pretty expensive.
Yeah, you start spending $60,000 for 3 turbos or 45,000.
Yeah.
You don't, excuse me, the Outlaws, one of the few associations that has 28, 30 hooks for a class. If you've got a 10-member class, that's a great show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you blow everybody up one weekend and you only got 2 the next weekend, what good did that do you?
Right. Yeah. It's, and the biggest motivator, in a class, if you're pulling in a class, is getting beat. You might not be ready to spend any money till you get beat a couple times, then you're ready to start writing some checks.
Well, so, I was somebody in 77, 78. I was somebody. I won the state points championship, and then come along a guy by the name of Wayne Gay, and he took a 460 Ford and had the crank off ground, and he had more money in that motor than I had in the pickup, the trailer, and the pulling rig and everything. And me and Wayne was best of friends, but we went from a 12 class modified class down to 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So a guy from West Oklahoma wasn't going to travel to Eastern Oklahoma for 4th or 5th place, just wasn't going to do it. And
yeah, it's kind of like, whether it's true or not, but I heard this story over the summer that Manuel Moreno from Texas, everybody knows Manuel Moreno, the modified 4-wheel drive out of Texas.
The Yellow Rose of Texas.
Had considered making a comeback. And had considered making a comeback. I heard this, whether it's true or not. And then when he saw how much one of those motors cost, he said,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think his son considered bringing the Rose back, but to get it updated for what it's going to cost, that don't surprise me none.
Yeah,
the dollar bill is a driving factor. And if you can keep it where more people can play, the more people to play on the playground, the more fun it is for everybody.
Yeah, I'd love to bring some more, I don't want to say entry-level classes, but classes that are a lot easier to get into. I pulled in a 4-wheel drive truck class that we called Super Street. Now, none of these trucks were actually streetable.
Right.
But, we had a limitation. They were small cubic inch, 4150 carburetor with a choke tower and cast iron heads. And, we were turning these things, guys were turning them 10,000 RPM. And, for somebody that didn't know, they would be able to tell that from a pro stock pickup, with a 485 cubic inch motor and probably about 50,000 more dollars under the hood. But
you talk about entry-level classes there, Ron. That's your next little pink elephant that you got to be careful of, because Outlaws has got so many classes right now. If if you're a little bit bigger to where you would have like NTPA, the Grand National, and like the region. Now maybe that's where your Colorado deal could help out and such as that, but you ain't got that over here in Missouri and such as that. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but that would have to be on a different structure where you could take, maybe you could take a Missouri State under your wings or something like that, and have those entry levels.
And that's where
there's growing pains that's going to have to be accepted.
That's where we're at, is developing regions. We have so much interest in outlaw pulling now. Promoters want to book the Outlaws, and we're at that point where we can't book the talent anymore, you know, because we're pushing them so hard. They're already running an Ironman schedule, you know, and so it's either tell them no or, you know, start developing some other classes. You know, your light limited,
you're going to have mini rods, and put them in such a prize fund that only certain people, certain shows can afford them.
Yeah.
The dollar, that here again, that dollar will curtail, and that's opening up a can of worms right there. Because if you tell little town of Timbuktu that they can't have the modifieds unless they want to pay, I'm just throwing a number out there, 20,000 for the class.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't afford that. We just pay them that for the whole show. Well, if you can't afford that, they're going to go to this show over here.
The region. You know? Yeah.
But you got to be careful on how all these steps are taken, because if you shoot yourself in the foot one time, then it's hard to heal.
So what, the best advice you could give an announcer, give us your best announcer advice.
Well, I listened to you two last year quite a bit, and I sent both of you an email. I was very impressed on how y'all handle things. You know, Ron, you know a lot of the mechanics. Mike is still learning a lot of the mechanical bits and pieces of it. That is the one thing, because I built it from the ground up. I built the motor, I built the tractor, I welded it together. You learn what to watch for. You teach the crowd little nippets, and the both of you, and I'm picking on you two right now. As we've given advice to announcer, anywhere that there's an announcer got a big screen, work that big screen. Pick up on that little thing that fell off and point it out on the big screen. Use that big screen to your advantage.
Like an oil breather cap.
Is hungry.
I mean, like when an oil breather cap pops off, you could say that on the.
yeah, that was something. But you, just like that story a while ago where that camshaft's going through there. Yeah. The crowd eats that stuff up. That crowd is a motorized crowd. They didn't come to a tractor pull because they live on 5th Street and just want to see what it's about. They're a mechanical, motorized crowd, but they don't understand everything about the sport. So the more things that you can point out, the more things that you can tell the crowd about the mechanics. And then they want to know about the driver himself, which you guys got the drivers down. You know who's a barber and who's we used to have a supermarket butcher pull with us for time. You know, they love stuff like that. So just do your homework and keep it clean and go for it.
You know, a lot of people would ask, you know, how does he know so many backstories on all these people? Well, Mike, what he would do, what Dave would do, he'd pull his motorhome right in the pit area, squeeze right in between a couple haulers. There's a picnic table or a chair. He was sitting there, and pullers just come up, sit down, chat. They get up, another one come over. He'd learn all the stories just sitting there, and he didn't even have to try. They just come to him.
You go to taking notes, they'll run from you. But if you'll remember what's being said, and that's what I can't do nowadays.
My motto by the end of the year was have a cup of coffee with Blake Ott and have a beer with Brady Gosler. You know, if you can sandwich both ends and just be out there in the pits and just be a part of it. And, you know, if nothing else, we're lifelong fans. You know, just be in the mix and just ask questions and, you know them, get to know them.
Get to know them, you know, find out, you know, how many acres does the Schluter's farm?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I don't know.
I can tell you right where it's at. I drive right past it frequently. It's a lot. I can tell you it's a lot right there south of Carrollton, Missouri.
But when you tell them that the Neves farms 5,000 acres of cotton. Now they can realize, just little snippets. They like information.
You probably
you
have
can tell them who they are and where they're from 25 times, but that don't tell them nothing.
You probably take on some more ground after what he did to the tractor at Spencer there in September. Ken Summers checking in, says, great to see you, Dave. So, Dave, any regrets in your announcing career?
I wished I hadn't made them 3 people mad the last 2 years I was announcing.
See, that's news to me. I haven't heard that, but yeah, the times have changed.
Kurt got a letter wrote on me. Kurt got a letter. And I called all 3 people. I talked to all 3 people and explained where, what, and why. And a lot of times, as an announcer, you got to be careful what a pit crew tells you that you think's funny. That when it gets home, it ain't funny, but it comes out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But I never wanted to offend anybody. I never wanted to upset anybody. But we live in a time now that's totally different, and it was time for me to step aside.
Well, I would think of it this way, Dave. You've announced for decades, and for every 3 people you made mad, you brought 10 million people. You brought 10 million people joy. So if you go 3 on one hand and 10 million on the other, I think your overall numbers are in the good.
I understand, but the age thing, I could get out there. I could do a show. There ain't no doubt that I couldn't go do a show. I wouldn't have the knowledge now about the pullers that I used to have, but I could do a show and bring some pointers out. But it's time for new blood. It's time for you guys to pick up the horns and run with it. You got to get your own style. Somebody will say, well, Dave Bennett did it this way. Well, it don't make no difference what Dave Bennett did. You 2 guys got to form your own style, your own critique, something that people like. At the same token, you can pick up on what I did do with the stories and the knowledge of the mechanics, and that they was farming last night till midnight and drove 10 hours to get here and stuff like that. So, but as far as regrets, that's probably the only regret I've got. Outside of that, I've been so blessed. This sport owes me nothing. The sport of tractor pulling owes me nothing at all.
As far as the things you were just talking about there, Dave, is every once in a while, when you're around an announcer there for so long, you pick up some of their sayings. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And every once in a while, you'll hear a Dave Bennett come out of my mouth, and I'll usually give you credit for it whenever I say it. But
you do a good job of giving me credit. I caught you a time or 2 you didn't, and you don't got to give me credit. It's appreciated, but. Yeah,
he's got so many of them with the neatest, sweetest, most completest, or the spinning and grinning. I mean, it's just you can't not dip into that well from time to time.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Mike, as a up and coming announcer here, anything you want to ask Dave? Any advice or anything?
What I just want to say to him is thank you so much. Thank you for it was a pleasure to get to meet you this weekend. The text message you sent me this summer was probably one of the most meaningful things that I've ever received. It just means a lot to be able to interact with you and to meet with you. And you've given this sport so much, and I feel very grateful just to be interacting with you here.
Yeah, thank you a great deal. And in about 40 years from now, you'll be presenting a Hall of Fame award to somebody that you're going to go back and remember what they done this last year.
It'll probably be the man sitting over here to my right. That'd be a pretty good icing on my cake if 40 years from now I'm handing him one, when he receives his Hall of Fame bid. So
I don't know how to take that, Dave, if he's saying I'm that good or if I'm that old. He's going to be handing it to me. What do you think?
There you go. Take a look at what Ken Summers is saying right there, Ron.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I think he means because I was so involved with the event, I had to keep helping smooth things over. I think's what he's. Well, that was a stressful deal there. That was stressful.
It was. You putting it on. And then Lori Bauer a while ago said, "I'll help you."
Yeah, she'll help you if you come back.
I'm going to give you two guys credit for. I'm going to tell you this. And I know y'all are pushing for time. I'm sorry. I can sit here to midnight. It ain't going to bother me a bit. But, Lori put on the screen there a while ago, "I'll help you."
Yeah.
Yeah. I had her in my hip pocket at every show. If I was out of walking around, I had her in my ear.
Yeah.
Now, you guys can sit at an announcer stand, not be in front of a crowd, and her being a trailer somewhere else. I don't see how you do it.
It's a lot of radio traffic, a lot of communication going on.
Well, I know I couldn't, and I like that Dave brought that up, because that was a huge thing that I took away from my first year, was working with Julie Viscotial and working with Lori Bauer. I can get carried away with my stories, and I get very enthusiastic, and to have the ability to have them to go back and say, "Hey, where are we at with this? Get me back on track." I mean, they are some of the biggest unsung heroes in the world of pulling, and you cannot be a successful announcer without having someone behind you who's got everything in order.
Now, with unless you had 5 computer screens in front of you, keeping up with everything, it'd be. Lori was the best. There ain't no two ways about it.
Yep.
Was, is, whatever. And so with her, if I was to come back, and I ain't, that's pathetic. I ain't. But she would be right there with me, where I could talk to her and get firsthand.
Ben
What
Beller
do you say, Chevrolet?
says, "Yeah, what do you say, Chevrolet?"
I always like the Dodge, the Webster Dictionary Dodge. Boy, to stay away from that was my
Mopar, baby, yeah. It's kind of funny when Dave, when you and I first met, start talking and stuff, and my very first, actually the first time I think I went to the National Farm Machinery Show was 2018, and a couple years after that, every once in a while, I'd be texting you and letting you know things I was seeing on the track, and people didn't realize you and I was texting back and forth during the show, and I would hear you say something. I was your little spy down there at the starting line looking down. You're seeing somebody changing out a ignition box or a magneto or something. I'd say, "Oh, Leishner's changing out. They can't get it fired."
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dan was probably looking at, or that time that was Butch. He's trying to think, how the heck does he know that? What's going on all the way down there at the other end of the track? But you did the same thing whenever you was watching on TV and I was announcing. You'd be texting me when I'm announcing a show somewhere. So kind of neat. There's Miles Krieger watching the show tonight.
No.
Absolutely legendary.
Man.
Legendary man.
Was in the Outlaw show. Bless his heart.
I got to announce with Miles there a few years back, COVID year in Mexico, Missouri. So
yeah.
Oh, sure.
Well, Dave, we've run almost an hour and a half here, and I figured that would happen. It's kind of like when you and I get on the telephone when I'm coming home from a pull. It seemed like it's been 20 minutes, and I'll look at the time and say, "Geez, it was 3 hours talking."
Announcers go to talking. You can drive from South Dakota to Kansas.
That's a very true statement.
That is for a fact. But no, I think the sport still got a good future in front of it. It's kind of like I told Van Beek the other night. I helped put diapers on the Outlaws way back when it was first. This association was born. I helped put diapers on it. Well, it's out of diaper stage now, but it's still in a spot that it needs some good parenting and good directional help.
Yep. Some of the goals, one of the goals I have is crossing over, Dave, is crossing over to the other side, the folks that aren't connected to ag in any way.
Yeah.
And bringing those people in and showing them how legitimate this is, what an awesome sport it is, the competition. But you got to break that stereotype, and what they think that we're doing. but we have the tools now at our disposal. We just have to use them.
Right.
You know, the social media, the young guns, things like that, because the young guns connect with these younger, these younger people, and they could educate them, through social media and TikTok and things like that. So that's kind of one of our goals. We want to cross over. We want to bring more fans to the sport that we know and love. We think it's the greatest sport on the planet. So.
Oh yeah. If you're a puller, there ain't nothing else.
That's true.
You live for it. It's an addiction. It really is. It really is. So.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It means a lot. We didn't really talk about, the Hall of Fame members and such as that. Those two guys that went in, so deserving, so deserving, more deserving than I was the first year. Some of them needed to be there then. But
well,
catching up, it was an emotional time when I got up to give out the award and give me that standing ovation. A lot because of what happened to Linda, and just seeing me there. I was so emotional I couldn't get into it like I wanted to. It bothered me that I couldn't do it smooth. There's my wife, bless her heart. But with that being said, that standing ovation just was so touching. I had 400 friends just right there.
Yeah.
Standing ovation. But then I still had fun out of them two guys telling the little funny stories here again, Mike. These little stories I told about them. You don't forget stuff like that. You can't write it down. You just gotta
live it.
Yeah.
Well, you're a family member, Dave. When I heard the news of the accident, it was like something happened to a family member. I couldn't believe it when Kurt called me and told me. It was like, still didn't believe it happened after.
I understand.
I can't keep thinking about it. But you're talking about those Hall of Fame members, Dave. There's a lot of icons in pulling, man. I mean, you got your Clem Schluters and you got your George Neves and you got your Dave Bennett. You're right there with them, man. So don't sell yourself short. A lot of people in this sport look up to you. You're definitely an icon in the world of pulling. So
yeah, flattery will get you everywhere, and I'll send you that $10 next week.
10. I thought we agreed on 100. So
you're thinking again.
Dave Bennett?
No, I don't know. I'll show up at a show somewhere.
I hope so. It was good seeing you down in Lufkin. I know that.
Well, I enjoy and Kurt asking me to open the show up down at Lufkin. That made me feel good. I can open. I just ain't working the whole show.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome anytime you want to show up, buddy.
Yeah.
And there's always a hot mic ready for you.
I got you. I appreciate it, guys.
So, Dave, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time out.
Y'all take care.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
So that's awesome. A lot of people watching tonight.
Gives me goosebumps, Ron. I mean, just, to grow up listening to someone like him and to be here interacting with him personally, he's an amazing person, probably the most talented announcer, and just doesn't get any better than this is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And he did a lot of trackside stuff, very few notes. He just went out there and did it. And, it with the announcer scripts and things, it does make it a little tougher now. But yeah, he knew all the backstories, he was always right there in the middle of them all the time. So he knew all the good and the bad, all the dirt.
Oh, sure.
So, a few more comments here we want to put up on the screen before we go. Tammy Morris said, "Love you, Dave. Best always. We are family now and always." Steve Cothran, so you guys are definitely growing. Fan base wise, my family and I bought a lot of your merchandise when we went to Chapel Hill Lions Super Pull. I don't know.
I wonder if he's not watching on a Beer Money channel and kind of just assuming that it's all under the same blanket there.
Yeah. Tammy, I think she's saying yes, Dave. She's going to try to make Dave come to maybe to
Come to Louisville,
Rock Valley or Louisville. Yeah, I'm not sure which, but
Louisville. I've been.
Louisville.
If there's one thing, if there is
Louisville.
one takeaway in my entire gamut of announcing in 2024, it's that every announcer and every person I work with has informed me that I pronounced that town wrong. It's not Louisville. It's Louisville.
Yeah.
So
It's Louisville and it's Norfolk if you're in Nebraska.
Norfolk, I got that one down. So yeah.
All right, Mike. Thanks. Long show tonight.
Really quick, do we want to clear some smoke, or do we want to put a button in that? Because I know he's out there watching, but I know we had a big show with Dave, so we can table that, or we can run that. Ron, I'll let you decide.
Yep, let's run it.
All right. Well, he's out there watching. He said he was going to tune in tonight, so we're going to make sure and shout out to him. He was last week's guest. He is a 2024 points champion. This week, when the smoke clears, you will be looking at an outlaw, and that outlaw is none other than Skylar Leeper. Skylar Leeper, the featured outlaw driver for the week. He'll be featured all week long on our social media platforms. His biography is going to sound like this. Pulls a couple of vehicles, or he has pulled a couple of vehicles in his years of pulling. He's got a 3.0 pickup truck he calls Legal Limits, but he also cut his teeth, or he does spend some time in his family on the limited pro stock 4-1 tractor they call Faster Horses, as well as his other limited pro stock diesel truck Chain Smoker. And like he told us last week, they've got a new addition in that limited pro stock truck class coming out in 2025. He's been pulling for 21 years. He made his first hook on a 60/30 John Deere in the town of Leeton, Missouri. He says his two most memorable hooks are Washington, Missouri in 2022 and Rock Valley, Iowa in 2024. The wildest ride he ever took was at the Missouri State Fair in 2010. I interviewed him, or I sent this questionnaire to him before the conclusion of the season, and it shows. I asked him, how many points championships do you have? He says, well, I've won with the Outlaws in 2016 and 2017. We'll go ahead and pencil in a 2024 on top of that as well. But he says he's also picked up a PPL points championship in 2021 and a Nebraska Bush championship in 2019. So congratulations to all of those. His biggest pulling hero is Adam Kincaid. His best pulling advice is take notes. Spend lots of time on the dyno. 95% of the work happens at home. Says the other 5% happens at the track. His day job, he's a mechanic and a tow truck driver at Leeper Auto Repair. His pulling goals. This is a neat one here, Mr. Ron Stone. He wants to drive a big pro stock. He wants one of those 6 or 6.5 inch turbocharger big boy pro stocks, and he wants to qualify for the National Farm Machinery Show with it. He says the best part about being an outlaw is just the overall quality of the pulls and all the 2-day hooks that we have, as well as hanging out with fellow pullers. His message to the fans is he wants to give a big shout out to all the fans that come to the pulls and keep up with the live results. He's a big fan of the app and the live stream. He says hearing from you guys keeps me pushing the limits. So he kind of had a little fun right there.
Yeah.
And he says you can follow him on social media. Follow his personal page on Facebook. Just friend him at Skylar Leaper, or you can follow his Instagram at Legal Limits. When the smoke clears, you'll be looking at Skylar Leaper.
Yeah, with him just winning the championship, accepting his trophy and his check on Saturday night, his stats for this year, they don't get much better than his stats for 2024. 5 wins, 4 second-place hooks, 2 third-place hooks, and that's the worst he did was those 2 thirds.
When your stat sheet stops at third, you've had a good season.
All top threes, and of course, went right down to the wire with him and Wayman going into Lufkin, Texas. We had no idea who was going to win it till the very last night, and he pulled it out. So for his 3rd Outlaw Points Championship, congratulations, Skylar Leaper. So, and he did tell me about that other truck they were putting together for 2025. So very cool, very cool. So, Mike, thank you so much for that. Doing When the Smoke Clears. Wow, big show. I'll grab these other comments here. Like I said, a lot of people watching tonight. Steve Cawthron. Oh, he says he's always keeping up with Beer Money Pulling Team. Got lots of friends and family in North Alabama, South Tennessee, with the Mid-South folks. Know the folks Mid-South. Yeah, Ben Beller. Ryan Stahl has his spooled up 3.0 for sale. Saw that today.
I did not catch that. I talked to Ryan quite a bit this weekend, and that never came across the docket. But he spoke to me. He said, we've got some ideas now that the sun's in pulling. We've got some stuff in the shop we might be looking to resurrect. So very interesting.
I don't know.
I bet he's not done. I'll put it that way. I bet he's not out of the sport.
I know nothing. All right, Mike, thanks so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. Great show. Thanks, Dave Bennett, for coming on and hanging out with us. And we'll see you next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central on Outlawed Live. Thanks for watching.
Wow. Check. Make sure Chuck's all right there. They're going to check Chuck out. Catastrophic engine damage. I think the top part of the motor. I believe he probably split the block in half right there. 234.53. Folks, give Chuck a round of applause. They said he's just fine, but the only thing hurting is his pocketbook right now. That is going to be an expensive fix.